Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a very pleasant day. The subscriber count has absolutely skyrocketed since I last promised you a Q&A. So it was meant to be the 17k Q&A, but instead we're sitting on over 40k. So very big welcome if you are new. And I'm splitting this up into 3 separate sessions. This one, the first of which, is going to be the ultimate travel guide, because my questions are split up into a combination of travel related stuff, philosophical stuff, mindset, motivation, training, adventure, all those kinds of things. And so I've never done any dedicated videos on how I pack, traveling essentials, things you must know, my insider tips, but I'm constantly requested about it. So that's what we're going to cover off today. And so I've compiled all of the best questions into my ultimate travel tips, and we're going to dive deep into it right now. Let's go. Also, a big welcome if you are new and this is your first proper sit-down video. This channel is a combination of me going on crazy adventures and pushing myself and sharing all of those lessons with you. So question number 1 is, what are some of the best places you've been for day-to-day living? And this depends hugely on what you want to optimize for in your day-to-day living, what kind of climates you like, what kind of communities you want to be involved in if you want to be in a big city. But for me, my personal preference, I absolutely love Cape Town and will be going there again. You've got a small city to get around, ability to build a community, a lovely crisp ocean in front of you and mountains behind you. So Cape Town's high up on my list. Another few honorable mentions are Antigua in Guatemala, the mountain backdrop, and Lake Atitlan, which is only a couple of hours away. It's at elevation, but it's a very chill town, lots of cool restaurants and cool people. You've also got Cuenca in Ecuador, which is like a cultural hub. It's a very nice little city, also at altitude, but I spent about a month living there this year, that was, wasn't it? Yeah, time's flying. And it was very enjoyable, so check that out if you're ever passing through Ecuador. And then 2 of the OG travel destinations, the Philippines and Indonesia. If you can put up with the humidity and constantly sweating when you step outside the door, you know, tropical paradises. The Philippines is very, very fond memories of mine, and I'll be going back again, I'm sure. But perfect beaches, perfect weather, and yeah, great traveling community, but also the locals are extremely welcoming. Same can be said of Indonesia, which is actually where I'm headed next. When you first started traveling, what kind of gear turned out to be dead weight? Okay, so I've been on the road for just over 2 years now, and so my ability to pack light has got better and better, and now to the point where I can't even fill a 60-litre backpack because I'm so efficient. So things that turned out to be dead weight, I think the main thing for me was toiletries, especially if you're coming from a developed country. You think, oh my God, I need to bring my Diarrhea, my painkillers, all this kind of stuff. And then the more you're on the road, the more you realize you can buy anything you need, anywhere you need. Like even if you go traveling without enough underwear or t-shirts or toiletries, whatever it may be, you'll be able to pick them up. So don't stress about it. You don't need everything that you're going to use like to be on that first flight with you, whether it's a short trip or a long trip. And then trying to condense and optimize your pairs of shoes. So for most people, you really don't need more than 3 pairs of shoes. One that you can wear in a semi-formal environment, one that's a rugged trainer for hiking and activities, and then flip-flops. And that pretty much covers you in all kinds of climates, from 0 degrees Celsius right the way up to 35 degrees Celsius, and all kinds of adventures. So they are my 2 biggest tips. Has traveling changed the way you see your home country? What are some unexpected insights? I don't think it's much of a secret that I absolutely hated living in England when I left just over 2 years ago, and I said to myself I will not be living here in the next 5 years, which is amazing to think it's actually nearly been 2.5 years since I've been away, and so upheld that belief. However, you do gain rose-tinted glasses about your native land when you step away from it for a little while. And so although I despised the culture of the people in England and the weather and kind of the atmosphere in general, the social, political and economic decline of the country, which all still exists, I very much do enjoy getting back there and that sense of home and comfort that I've tried to see if I could find in places or replicate in places like Australia or South America or wherever it may be. But there's this element of the family and the childhood friend community in the UK, and the comfort of the climate that you grew up with as well. So I do love, I've always been very patriotic, and I do love England, and I'm very proud to be English, and I actually like spending time there a lot more now. Now I'm not forced to. I actually love spending time there a lot more than I used to. So yeah, pros and cons, and who knows, like the idea of settling there has become a lot more appealing now, despite the political and economic decline of the country, which I don't think is going to change anytime soon. But we will see. You never say never. What are your travel must-haves? Again, your ability to pack light comes from your experience, and so you've got to make mistakes and you've got to overpack initially and think you need certain things. I was going to say being a guy makes it easier, but it just depends on your personality, because my must-haves, I would say, are a black t-shirt. Shock, I'm actually wearing one right now. I came to the realization that you don't need to iron them. They don't get stained. And so I've got I always travel with 4 black t-shirts, and you don't need to have funky t-shirts on all the time, and then you don't need to be worrying about what you're wearing. Very versatile. And I've also branched into white t-shirts now. I know, so exciting. So I've got 3 of them with me on this trip, and essentially now all my t-shirts are just black or white. You know, that's maturing, isn't it? Realizing you don't need all kinds of crazy t-shirts. Anyway, 7 pairs of underwear. That's a travel must-have. Essentially, my policy, which hasn't changed over the last 2 years, is you're going to have access or want to think about doing laundry roughly every 7 days. So 7 pairs of underwear, 7 pairs of socks. And if now, because I'm working I'm working full time as opposed to just traveling in hostels like I used to be. When you're in hostels, you can easily find, especially in developing countries, somewhere to do your laundry fairly cheaply, drop it off, pick it up the next day for a matter of a few pounds or a few dollars. And then in Airbnbs, like this one I'm in right now, has a washing machine and a tumble dryer. So yeah, carrying a little bit of detergent sometimes or hopefully the Airbnb has it. But yeah, just trying to do laundry every 7 days, and then you can run for months like that, or years even. And also my OG hygiene essential is my bar of Dove soap. I always like to have the same Dove soap. Obviously, when you're in different hotels or Airbnbs, they provide body wash, but that thing always gets me out of trouble, keeps me clean. Anyway, what deprivation has led to the most useful growth in your channels? Is it no family, no technology, etc.? I think there's a big contrast between you're deprived of things when you're traveling, but also you're exposed to some of the most beautiful things and the most sensational experiences when you're traveling as well. So I've seen some of them. I've lived 1,000 lives now, 1,000 lifetimes of adventures in terms of dramatic landscapes and experiences and adventures. Contrasted with, I've also, been deprived of what you might consider a comfort typically, or having family around you or friends around you and having to negotiate being on a 10-hour bus in the middle of Vietnam on your own with just a pack of Oreos. There's loads of things where sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. So I think the 2 things that I appreciate greatly considering both those 2 things, the fact I've seen the most incredible stuff, and also I've been deprived from things that would, normal day-to-day life you don't have to worry about. One of them is the little things in a routine: waking up, getting the sun on your face, having a cup of coffee, and chilling, and being able to not have to be on the move constantly is great. And then also just an appreciation of having a community around me. So whether that's when I'm traveling solo, but I've built up a group of 2 or 3 people that I really vibe with and you connect with and do cool stuff with, or when you're not traveling and you're around your actual friends and you can you feel part of something rather than just being a nomad on your own. So a lot of these tips are actually going to be about solo traveling, but also relates to being in a group. I'm sure there'll be a question about that. How do you balance flying days with fitness, plain food, jet lag, etc.? I tend to lose motivation. Well, firstly, losing motivation isn't an excuse not to do things. That's a pretty childish approach. So yeah, you lose resources in those scenarios, but you shouldn't lose motivation based on the resources you have available to you. If you're jet lagged or tired or whatever it may be, you shouldn't act on whether you feel like doing something. You should just look for what the best outcome is in that scenario. So yeah, you've got some places where, like I just mentioned, being stuck on a bus with just a pack of Oreos, or you might be the airports in the US are horrible for getting clean, good food typically as well. So there's scenarios where you suffer and then you have to make up for it later on. Yeah, just trying to make the best out of your scenario with food. Plain food tends not to be that bad either. I've found, been on close to 100 flights in the last few years. Caffeinating well is also a great tactic for jet lag. Don't be addicted to caffeine, so that when you need it, you can use it as a lever. And then also working out as soon as you get into a new environment can help you with jet lag, resetting the clock. For example, when I flew west from the UK to the west coast of the States, you end up having like a whatever it is, awake for 24 hours or something. So just get there, get a little workout in, and also start eating on your new time zone as soon as you can. So ideally, on a long haul flight, while you're on the plane, start eating in line with the breakfast, lunch and dinner time of your new time zone to adjust, and then smash the caffeine or the sleep, depending on what's most appropriate to adjust quickly. What are some things you've learned about effective communication while traveling? So yeah, when you're in a lot of the countries I started in Southeast Asia and then Sub-Saharan Africa, had predominantly English speakers, so it was very easy to communicate, but you still use subtle psychological cues outside of your verbal communication. And then going over to Latin America and having to learn Spanish to a conversational level over the 7 months that I was there meant that initially I was relying a lot more on physical communication as opposed to verbal. It's amazing how far basic language and basic vocab can get you in those scenarios. So yeah, hand gestures, understanding the basic words that you need in order to get whatever you need, whether you need to tell someone you're hungry or ask if they have food or ask for directions or what is this or where is that or thank you or please, just the basic words can actually get you quite a long way, and body language gets you a very long way as well. And just respect as well. If you go to someone in a very polite and calm way and say, obviously, I'm a guest here, please can you help me with whatever I need assistance with, certainly helps as well, whether that's asking for getting laundry done or asking for directions or whatever it may be. People are always super receptive in any environment as long as you approach them calmly and with respect. Any insights on conflict resolution / de-escalation when you're at a disadvantage in another culture? Yeah, so I think my approach to conflict resolution and de-escalation is the same in my home country as opposed and also in other cultures, but essentially you don't really want to be engaging in physical fights anytime really unless you absolutely have to. So unless, my advice for myself, this is what I do and what I advise other people to do, unless your physical safety depends on it, you want to avoid a physical fight, a physical conflict at all costs. And so what that looks like is not worrying about feeding, normally it's ego driven if someone's annoyed at you. So the best thing that I do for de-escalations is feeding someone's ego, making them feel like the bigger man, the bigger person, more important, the wiser person, whatever it may be, so that they don't feel a threat, especially me as a big imposing guy. Like, I don't want to upset their ego, so I just feed their ego and try and avoid any chance of a physical altercation. And the main reason for that is, like, you're the guest, you're the person that's coming to their country, and also you don't know how corrupt or straight the police are, whether they have 5 friends that can jump you. So yeah, that's the main thing is being respectful and feeding their ego. And you learn to do that over time. I spent a few years as an operations manager, managed over 100 people in my time, and so just understanding what calms people down and what makes them feel good rather than feeling threatened. Have you heard many foreign opinions on your native land while traveling, or any surprising opinions? So native land being England in this scenario. Nothing unfair, I think. England's well known for having drunk, annoying, fat, bald men, which is fairly accurate in a lot of cases. Except people always think we have awful food, which is not the case. Like, because of the empire and the cultural immigration, we've got actually some fantastic food in the country, just to let you know. And you can't beat a full English and a roast dinner. So yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Baked beans are great. No, people are pretty fair. Their perceptions of English people. It's the same with like perceptions of American people. American people are great most of the time, but like, you guys are louder than most people, so it can be annoying. No offense, not all of you as well, so just take it on the chin. Would you enjoy being a guide for some of the locations you've seen? If so, which ones? So yes, this is actually something I'm working on post-Atlantic row. I'm rowing across the North Atlantic this next summer. Good, I can say that because it's not 2025 yet. Still a bit far away. So I'm compiling a list of people that have DM'd me privately asking for personal excursions with me as a guide, and I won't tell you which locations that I would want to be a guide for because I'm working on setting up there. So if you're interested and you want to not have the hassle of designing a sick adventure with me as your guide, and just let me take care of everything, DM me and you can, obviously it's nothing formal at the moment, but DM me, I'll put you on that list, and then when we launch you can be ahead of the curve if that's something that you want. Any tips for balancing fear versus wisdom while traveling? How do you do a risk assessment? So my approach to fear is pretty clinical, and I think that if my reason for not doing something is because I'm scared of it, then that's not a good reason for not doing it. You've got to head first into things that you're scared of, and then expand your horizons as a result of that. But that's not to say that if there's a risk of leaving yourself extremely exposed to be taken advantage of, to lose things, to get injured, whatever it may be, that's not really fear, that's a valid reason for not doing something. So what that means in terms of the approach for you is gradually expand your horizon over time. So you could be scared of going solo traveling. So maybe first you go with a friend for a couple of weeks, or maybe you're scared of going for 4 weeks. So first you go for a week and then you realize, oh, I could do 2 weeks, I could do 3, I could do 4. I first went traveling with a friend and then very quickly realized, you know what, the idea of going solo was terrifying, but now I realize I could do it. Then I go solo traveling, I take on some adventures, some group-based mountain hikes, and then all of a sudden I've, a year and a half later, from doing group-based hikes up to like 3,000 meters, I've climbed 4,000 meter peaks completely solo, motorbiking my way there, because I've gradually expanded my horizons over time and learnt what I'm capable of, and just and bashed back the barriers of what I can do. So yeah, I think if I'm scared of something, there's no reason to be a pussy, so you just got to get on with it. Unless that fear comes from a legitimate chance of losing something or getting injured, then you have to weigh up the cost and don't never leave yourself exposed to losing things. So obviously always keep things locked away. I put air tags on all my stuff. I never leave anything out or vulnerable, and then I never do anything where there's a risk of serious injury. And the more you expand your horizons, you may get close to getting it wrong with an injury a couple of times. You might get a little bit injured, and then over time that wisdom builds up and you think, okay, well, I won't do that because it's dangerous, but I can do this, I can do that. How do you find gyms when you're traveling? I get this question a lot, and it's one of those things, it's like, if you know, it's really easy, but if you don't know, I can imagine, yeah, it can seem weird to see this guy that manages to stay in shape and finds gyms wherever he goes. But the answer is extremely simple, and I have a free newsletter and also a free PDF of my 10 top tips for staying in shape while traveling, and you can get that. I'll put the link in the description. You can get that for free, and then I'll send you all of my travel-based wisdom in the newsletter as a result of that. And one of the tips in there is Google Maps is your best friend. So I use Google Maps for validating the safety and taste of a restaurant when I'm in a new environment. So like anything over like 4.2 stars out of 5 and with over like 30 odd ratings, it's gonna most likely not give you food poisoning, be decent value, and then yeah, that's a good way for food. And then for the gyms, answering your actual question, there's 2 things I type in. One of them, you can just type in gym on Google and it will start to show you stuff in the local area, and you can see pictures of whether it looks feasible. When you're in developing countries, all you need to do is just type in gym, look at the picture, see if it has the equipment that you need, and head straight there, and they'll always have day passes pretty much. But when you're in more developed countries, gyms are less likely. Some of them don't have day passes, they don't like people just passing through, and so what you can actually type in is day pass gym or trial gym, and then you can see the reviews where people have mentioned a day pass, and you can look on their website to see if they offer it, and that's typically what I do. So I'm in Vancouver at the moment. I typed in day pass gym, and the nearest one was actually a 5-minute drive away. So I looked at a review and then looked at their website, could see that there was an option to buy a day pass. So then you can just turn up rather than having to get roped into credit cards and subscriptions and all of that good stuff, or bad stuff in this scenario. What is the best thing that a new location brings out of you? I think the best thing about traveling for me, I travel for locations and natural beauty, whether that is animals or incredible landscapes or whatever it may be. It's that childlike awe of standing in front of something and having never seen it before. That dopaminergic release of just, this is crazy, I can't believe this exists on this planet and I've never witnessed anything like this. And that's what it's like to be a kid when you're brought into the world. Everything's interesting. Oh my God, a pillow, a light, a computer, whatever it may be. And so the older you get, the more normal everything becomes. And when you travel and broaden your horizons of being able to experience things that you wouldn't be able to experience otherwise, it brings you back to that childhood awe of this is crazy. What a pleasure it is to be on this planet, you know? And that's something that is an emotion you can't bottle. And that's, for me, one of the beauties of having children, is the fact that you get to then, I don't have children, but the fact you get to like look through their lens of experiencing things for the first time, that must be pretty magical. So yeah, that's why I like, that's what I like about new locations. And the more you travel, the more difficult that is to find. So you've got to be careful chasing dragons like that. How do you pick / prioritize your travel destinations? This is, again, very much about me rather than a tip for you, but the answer is whatever you want. So lots of people travel for food, for culture, for people, for landscape, for adventures, whatever it may be. Decide what lights your heart on fire. So that could be that, I know loads of people that go to different places and they're like, oh, you have to try this dish and this cuisine and the rest of it, but I couldn't care less. I'm not a foodie at all. Or they may want to interact a lot with indigenous people from a certain walk of life, or just spend time in a community with the people that live there. And again, for me, that's something that I've found pleasure in the past, but it's not why I go and do things. So work out what it is for you. For me, it is incredible landscapes and difficult challenges, essentially. So I love just getting better at things that I'm not good at. So that's exactly how the channel actually started. It was me on a one-way flight to the Philippines, where I learnt to scuba dive and then learnt to surf in Indonesia, and then all the other challenges, got much better at mountaineering over there as well, and then built on things bit by bit. But for me, it's about learning new skills and doing things that are increasingly difficult, and testing myself and finding that mental and physical limit. That's when I want to suffer a little bit, and then when I don't want to suffer, it's what beautiful, magical thing can I experience in this location where I've not seen anything like that before. And I'm in Vancouver at the moment, and I had the absolute pleasure of going whale watching for the first time, and the guide asked me, have you ever seen any whales before? And I realized I actually haven't. And I saw orcas from like 25 meters away. Incredible animals, so intelligent. Obviously you can just see the dorsal fin coming up and the top of it, and a bit of the white on the side of the body. But also saw humpback whales, magical beasts, and they're all traveling in groups. So things like that, it's like it's not uncomfortable. I'm just on a boat watching whales, but it's sick, you know? So yeah, prioritize whatever you want. Just sit. Like, the beauty of the internet is you can sit and just look on social media or Google things, or I quite often find myself just looking at the world map and thinking, what could be there? What's fun there? What's fun there? And then Google it, research it, see cool video on Instagram Reels or whatever. We all spend too much time on there. And then your ideas and things that draw you come as a result of that. Any advice for a first time traveler solo? Wow, you're the first time traveler. Sorry, that was out of order. If you're a time traveler, then let's go and travel together, make some money, go to roulette and just bet on whatever the previous number was, and then go back. That'll be an easy strategy. God, what a life. Anyway, if you're a first time solo traveler, then I advise stay in hostels, definitely. And even if you don't want to stay in a dorm, I completely get that. I've completely outgrown hostel dorms now. But you can stay in a private room in a hostel, and then you get all of the social benefits of, you know, going and eating in the hostel restaurant, or doing the group events where you end up just mingling with other people. And then ask the hostel staff, if you don't know already, what the cool trips that they have from the hostel is. So if it's city-based, they'll almost always have a free walking tour, or be able to recommend one to you. There'll be like events happening every morning or day or whatever. And then if you're in an adventurous place, there'll be a day trip or an excursion that you can go and do. And so my advice is go and do that excursion. And what happens is people are forced to be friends with you because they're stuck with you for the day. So then, yeah, all of a sudden you're solo traveling, but you're doing this cool thing with a group of people. Maybe there's 10 people on there and you don't like 7 of them, or not you don't like them, but anyway, you like 3 of them. Worst case, you know, hang out with them, go for dinner with them, and then start to build a social group around that. That's 100% what I would do, and what I do. Can't say that. What I did do as a solo traveler. You ever plan on seeing Canada? I'm here right now, buddy. Oh, buddy, that's a Canadian word as well. A good coincidence. Yeah, I'm unfortunately working here it's kind of worked out that way. So I've got another 3 days straight of just banging out PT related stuff and social related stuff, hence I'm talking to you right now. But I'm going hiking in Whistler. I'm in Vancouver. I'm going hiking in Whistler for a couple of days on a couple of big solo missions. Hopefully there's not too much snow, and hopefully I survive so that this video gets uploaded. And then, yeah, that's the plan here, and then go to Indonesia after that. Do you have any videos on what you pack when you travel, or any tips to travel life? I don't have any videos on what I pack when I travel, just because I haven't done one yet, and this is the closest that we've ever got so far. I think I will do a proper one, but I'll give you a little insight now. And any tips to travel life? Yeah, that's what this whole video is about, isn't it? So here is what I carry. I've made a little list for you. So I have a 65-litre backpack, which, as I said, I'm packing so efficiently now I struggle to fill it. I'll tell you what's in there in a second. And then I have a secondary little backpack in the region of 30 litres, and then that has all of my electronics in it. If you're just travelling and not working, you don't need a laptop, multiple cameras, a drone, all that kind of stuff. But if you do have electronics, they need to go in your hand luggage, and then you can put a couple of layers in there, or food or whatever. And then in your 65-litre pack, what I typically move around with is 7 pairs of pants, 7 pairs of socks, 2 shorts for just milling about, mate, 1 pair of swim shorts, 1 pair of gym shorts, 1 pair of tracksuit type bottoms for trekking or hiking. I wear just hiking trousers now. And at the moment, like 1 pair of trousers. At the moment, that is jeans, because I was in the States. Yeah, and then the 3 shoes that I mentioned earlier, you want 1 like shoe that you're going to be like going for dinner in, semi-formal, depends what kind of environment. I've got like brown boots now, but it could be just whatever the kids wear these days, Nike Air Force trainers or whatever. I don't know, not down with the kids anymore. 1 pair of excursion trainers, so I wear Nike Gore-Texes for like my Grand Canyon rim to rim hike, or going up Kilimanjaro, those kinds of things, or just even out on a motorbike for the day. And then 1 pair of flip-flops or sliders or whatever for when you're on a rocky terrain or on the beach or something. Then inside the main bag as well, we've got toiletries. So again, you can pick things up in any given country, but you know, your face wash, soap, floss. I'm not going to tell you all the toiletries. What are we doing here? Come on. Toothbrush, toothpaste, you get the idea. Nail clippers, crucial actually as well. I'm not your mum. I'm going to stop telling you what toiletries to bring. 7 t-shirts for me, just black and white, keeping it simple. I don't need to impress anyone these days. And appropriate layers. So yeah, what that could look like is I have 1 jumper, hashtag sponsored, not sponsored. Well, kind of, yeah, sponsored. Montan jumper. You see, I wear a lot of their, they give me clothes to wear for mountaineering, so the fantastic company, and this is like my fleece thing. And then I've got a waterproof and then a down jacket as well from Montaigne. Yeah, appropriate layers, and as I already mentioned, electronics then stay separate in the hand luggage. So that is what I pack. Is that what you wanted to know? I think so. What else do I even bring? This is useful, actually. The old Nalgene, yeah, a litre bottle, because you're often filling it up in hostels, or this is a nice transition into getting a drink, isn't it? Yeah, fill up your water. Sometimes you'll buy bottled water, sometimes this will be very useful. And the wide lid as well. It's not that good for drinking, especially if you're in a car, you're like, but easy for filling up, that's why. That's why you do it. Right, how do you handle weird people, like me, talking about Nalgene bottles? How do you handle weird people and encounters while traveling? The beauty of being an adult is when you're a kid or you're in school, you have to put up with people that are boring, annoying, bullies, whatever it may be, weird. Maybe you were the weird one. I know I'm still the weird one. But the beauty of being an adult is you get to choose your friends, and a lot of people forget that. You get to choose who you hang out with. So if I'm out traveling, or like some weirdo comes up to me on the street and is like trying to be weird or whatever, or I'm in a hostel and someone's being a bit friendlier than perhaps I would like, it's quite simple. You just be polite, be respectful, and then leave at the earliest convenience. So yeah, just express that you're busy or you don't want to hang out or whatever it may be, and then move on. But yeah, it's don't feel the social pressure to hang out with people that you don't want to hang out with. This is something I'm going to talk about probably in the next Q&A. Is most people don't realize how valuable their own time is. It's your most precious commodity, and you shouldn't let other people take that from you. You should be it's your decision whether to give it to them. Getting to the end now, a few questions left. When you travel solo, do you ever get sad that you can't share the experience with someone? Yes and no. So where it's important, one of the things I love about traveling is sharing experiences, of course. And so I've never had a situation where I haven't shared any given experience with someone else. So I've done the odd thing where it's been a solo mission and I've been completely alone and wanted it that way, like climbing the highest mountain in Central America and biking there and spending the 2 days completely isolated doing it. So that was cool. But typically, if you want to find people to do stuff with, especially stuff that's not mega extreme, you get to share that experience because even if they're a stranger at the start, if it's a multi-day thing, you get to know them. And I'm still friends with so many people. A lot of my friends I met on multi-day trips where you bond and then you are then friends at the end of it, and you've always got that person that you've got that shared memory with. Just because you're traveling solo and you're not with someone that you're sharing all of the same memories with, it can be quite a nice thing to have a different person that's just a friendship that's frozen in time, where you're like, oh, that was that guy that I did that thing with. We were great friends. We don't need to chat all the time now, but we'll always have that memory. Whereas if you're friends with someone and you do everything with them, then all of a sudden you're not friends in the future. You don't want to tarnish. It doesn't tarnish it, but it could tarnish those memories. So yeah, I don't get sad that I don't share the experiences, because I always am sharing the experiences, and you will be too. So don't use that as a reason not to go solo traveling or traveling at all. Is the world generally bigger or smaller now that you've seen a lot of it? It's a great question. Good one. Second last question to finish on. Both. It's bigger and smaller. I've been to all of the continents except Antarctica now. And yeah, my Google Maps is just like putting points on things and realizing, oh, I've done that, I've been there, I've done that. And it's amazing how similar some landscapes can be all around. We're just on this one tiny blob in the eternity of space, aren't we? And so, yeah, when you're stuck in one country, you haven't been to many countries, you think, oh my God, everything's going to be so vastly different. But I've been to woodlands and jungles in Belize or the USA or Ecuador, or the UK or Montenegro, and you realise, oh, like the landscapes actually can be relatively comparable in a lot of cases. So the world gets smaller in that sense, and you think like everything is fairly similar. Like we're all on this one big planet together. And then also I've got so many friends now in every continent, so it's great because I don't have to solo travel anymore. For example, exactly what I'm doing on this trip. I came to Vancouver, met my mate Sash, who you'll see in a future video, and he flew over from Toronto to Vancouver just because I've got some mates in Canada. Then I'm flying to Indonesia. After this, you'll see I'll meet my mate Harry, who lives in Sydney, is an online PT as well. And so, yeah, the world gets smaller because your connections and your experience of every place grows and grows, and your understanding of what is everywhere. But also it gets bigger because anytime you go into a new place, you realise you're just scratching the surface of any given culture or community or location. And so this is one of the things when people always ask me, are you coming or going to Brazil? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I haven't got any plans to go to Brazil, because I don't want to just go to Rio and then scratch off the fact that I've been to Brazil, because it doesn't work like that. So you get somewhere, you get local knowledge, and you think, oh, I've done so many things, all these things I wanted to do, but actually next time I come back, now with my new information, I'd like to go here, there. So yeah. It's like unlocking a video game map, isn't it? You walk on the territory and then all of a sudden new horizons open. So is that a bad answer for me to say both? Is it a cop-out answer? Tough. It's the answer you're getting. What kind of mobile service do you use to connect all over the world? Are you mostly on Wi-Fi? Very good question. I don't want to bore you with details, but I had my phone contract in the UK, which was like £20 a month, and then I just turned that off and just used it as get out of trouble, because it would charge me a lot, like £5 a day if I ever needed to use it. But this company I'm about to talk about actually wanted to sponsor me. Loads do, but I just can't be bothered to deal with all of these brands. So Air Allo is the name of the company, and I do use them, but I just can't be bothered to be sponsored by them. But they are good. And what you do is you get an eSIM. My friend put me onto them. And yeah, sometimes it's expensive, sometimes it's cheap. And typically I'll just download the eSIM before I get to a new country, and that gives me internet in that location. So now I just pay, whatever it could be. It could be about $10 for 5 gigabytes or something like that. But then when I get to a country like Indonesia, I'll go to a local shop and buy a SIM there and just get loads of gigs there for very cheap with a local SIM. And the good thing is your WhatsApp number stays the same. So everyone around the world mainly uses WhatsApp to communicate. So my WhatsApp number stays the same even if I've got a different SIM in. And then you get loads of internet. There we go, travel. I'm actually going to answer one more question, which isn't even a question, because I get so many that are related to what's the best thing, what's the best country, what are your 3 favorite places, or all of this or all of that. And so if you're here and you've made it this far, thank you for being here. I love it. And I appreciate you hugely, more than you know. And so, yeah, you'll see if you go back on my YouTube videos, they're not rubbish, I promise. They're actually pretty good. So you can see when I first quit my job, I went to Southeast Asia and I went to the Philippines, then Indonesia, then Australia, and then Malaysia. And then on my way back, I went to Dubai, I went to Egypt, Jordan, and then flew to the UK for a little pit stop. And then my second trip, second part of the big leaving my job and starting a new life, was going to Tanzania, hunting with the last hunter-gatherers in Africa and climbing Kilimanjaro and a few other crazy missions. And then down to South Africa in Cape Town, then over to Namibia for a great road trip series that I made there, then Zanzibar on the east coast of Africa, owned by Tanzania, and then back to the UK, where we ramped up the business side of things with the coaching and the app. And then I did 7 months in Latin America. So then I went to Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, including the Galapagos in Ecuador as well. Came back to the UK, worked over the summer, and now I was in the States, now I'm in Vancouver, and then I'm going back to Indonesia again in like a week and a half's time. So that's just the reason I'm not boasting. The reason I'm saying all of that is there's no best locations, there are no favorite things I've done. I've just chased my passions in so many ways. And so any of those countries that excite you or interest you, go and flick through the playlists or flick through the countries, and you'll see things that will pique your interest and my experience. And obviously I dropped the odd tip in here of like, do this, do that. You can see the companies I've used in a lot of cases. Yeah, some amazing countries, and I don't like condensing it, because often the beauty of travel is it's not about the specific location or the specific thing. It's about the experience, the emotion, and that varies person to person. It varies based on who you're experiencing it with, whether you get lucky or unlucky in a certain scenario with your group. For example, when I was in Cape Town, I tried to dive with great white sharks, but unfortunately the orcas have been killing them for their livers, and also we had really bad visibility, so I saw 0 sharks. Whereas I came up here to actually, funnily enough, to look at orcas and humpbacks, and we had the most tranquil day. That video's not out yet, but it will be. The most tranquil day. Got some incredible footage, and it was perfect. So someone else would have gone to South Africa and loved it. Someone else would have come here to Vancouver and gone whale watching and not enjoyed it. So yeah, there's always pros and cons, but you've got to get out there. You've got to go and make the mistakes. You've got to go and experience things for yourself. You know, things we've spoken about today, like overpacking or not bringing the right things or getting ill or, you know, choosing the wrong restaurant. It's all part of life. It's all part of the ups and downs of travel. And that's why we do it. It's to experience new things and learn about ourselves. So yeah, a lot of these questions are clearly from people that are interested in my perspective. A lot of them are generalizations of what you need to know when you're traveling. But I hope you've enjoyed sitting down and chatting with me about it. If you do have any questions that I can answer fairly easily in the comments, do not hesitate. Do not hesitate. I will get back to you in the comments. The YouTube's not big enough yet, so I typically am able to reply to pretty much everything. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next adventure, and also on the next 2 Q&As, which are more about mindset, philosophy, trainings, a bit more travel stuff, and yeah, just all kinds of bits in between. So thank you for being here. See you on the next adventure, and have a good day.
Oh, you want me to say that?
You have to.
Oh, I have to. Like and subscribe.
No, say it with conviction and look at
Please like and subscribe. Adam Radcliffe at YouTube.